Welcome to Gratitude Space Radio. Welcome, Gratitude Group family. I'm your host, Chris Palmore, the founder of Gratitude Space and the creator of Dear Gratitude, an anthology, and Dear 2020, Letters to a Year That Changed Everything. This is the third installment in our live series. And if you enjoyed hearing from Dr. Joel and Michelle Levy and from Lama Suri Das as much as I did, then tonight you're in for a real treat. Gary Zukav is the author of 4 consecutive New York Times bestsellers, including the legendary #1 New York Times bestseller, The Seat of the Soul. This book led the way to seeing the alignment of the personality and the soul as a fulfillment of life and capturing the imagination of millions. His books have sold 6 million copies and more and are published in 32 languages. Over and over, he challenges us to see the depth of our potential in the world and to act on that awareness. Gary's newest book, Universal Human, is about the new era of human evolution and offers a vision of what a world based on love could be and an invitation to begin bringing such a world into being now. It is my pleasure to bring Gary Zukav. Welcome, Gary.
Hello, Chris.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise, thank you so much for being here today. It's great to meet you, and I just get so excited to be able to meet good people that get gratitude and love people. And I could tell just from reading your book and what I've seen about you that you are a lover of people.
Yes, I am, and but I wasn't always that way. No, I wasn't that way at all. I was a Special Forces Green Beret officer once in Vietnam. I was at one time, my whole life was just focused on motorcycles, women. I was addicted to sex, drugs. Then I started the cycle over again. And there's a lot of changes that I've created in myself since those times. I wasn't a lover of people then, I was a user of people. And now everything I do is for people. It reminds me of what my adopted Sioux uncle once told me. He said, "Doshka, nephew, have you noticed that the calves in a buffalo herd are always at the center of the herd where they're safest, while the older buffaloes move to the outside where they give themselves to their brothers, the wolves?" And then he thought for a few minutes and he said, "I'm one of those old buffaloes now. My life is all for the people." Well, he said that to me when he was younger than I am now. And now I know what he means. And so I really thank you for that, Chris, because that's one of the things I'm grateful for, is learning how to give rather than to exploit. And I'm here to share what I feel is the most significant, unprecedented, epic transformation to human consciousness that has ever occurred. And we are in it right now. And I love to describe what I know about it. And gratitude is a part of that. There's an entirely new consciousness with new potential, new ways of experience everything, ourselves, the world, the universe, one another, relationships, communities, power. So ask me any questions you like. I'd just be delighted to share.
Thank you, Gary. I love to start these by, I'm a big fan of, I'm trying to kind of better term for it, but it's the pre-gratitude, right? So it's every moment you're with somebody, if you're grateful in that moment, you can look back and you could take a little snapshot of what had to happen, right? Those little snapshots that go, how am I sitting in front of Gary Zukav? How did I get here to this moment to be able to have this conversation that I appreciate, And when you do that, when I do that, I get to go on my side, obviously, 6 years ago, I wrote a letter to my mother on my birthday, a gratitude letter, appreciating her. And, 4 months later to the day, she passed away from cancer. So that was something that completely altered my life and the people around me and everything. And it changed me in such a way. But that letter is what led me, the last 6 years to basically come to a place where I just want to be a catalyst for gratitude. And I want to create spaces for people to come into their gratitude. And because of that, a lot of twists and turns down the road. But last year, when I started my podcast, I reached out to our mutual friend, Steven Seidel, and said, because he's got this gratitude group, I'd like to say, if you're into gratitude and you like proclaiming it, the group that he has been able to put together is a dream group of grateful people that just want to share what they're grateful for. It's just it's like a sunny day, in the sense that there's no arguments in the group. It's just, let's share gratitude. And I just saw this beautiful space, and I reached out to Stephen and had him on my podcast, and we had a great conversation. Because we got to share what we are grateful for, we became good friends. And through that process, I've done he reached out to me because he wanted to do stuff for the group. And I've, of course, open arms going, hey, buddy, I'm all about it. If I can assist the group, in spreading gratitude in that space, here I am. So long story short, this is our third interview, but he's been a blessing in my life. And he is the reason that, those steps along the road, reading to him, to hear all those things. Now I get to sit before you, and I'm just grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I feel gratitude is the reason gratitude. By the way, I want to give a suggestion that I give in all of our events that I give, mostly with my spiritual partner, Linda Francis. And that is that I speak now to everyone who's listening to us. I don't suggest that you believe anything that I'm saying just because I say it. And in fact, I suggest that you don't do that for anyone that you hear, especially if they have or for any reason, but especially if they have a television show or a book or a pulpit. Try it on yourself. If you resonate with something, see how it fits for you. And if you like it, experiment with it. And then if it produces good things in your life, experiment some more. And if you don't resonate with it, let it go. Don't wear a shoe that doesn't fit. So what I'm sharing with you is a way that I've come to see the world, and I hope it'll be as helpful to you as it has been for me. And in my experience, we are in the midst of the most remarkable, unprecedented, epic transformation to human consciousness that's ever happened. Our perceptual capability is expanding beyond the limitations of the five senses. And we are moving into, and many of us have moved into, a new potential. And that new potential is the potential of authentic power. Power experienced and understood as the alignment of the personality with the soul. The old way of looking was through the lens of the five senses. We were a five-sensory species. And we evolved by surviving. And we survived by pursuing external power, manipulating and controlling. All of that is now toxic and in our past. But not all of us are multisensory yet. Within a few generations, all of us will be. That means that now there are hundreds of millions of us that relate to what you and I are talking about now. And the fact that we can relate to it and those who are still five-sensory do not yet relate to it doesn't make us superior in any way. It's only a temporary ebb and flow of evolution. So the way I've come to experience myself and others is as complex personalities. Like I used to think, maybe you used to think that your personality is a single thing. Like sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's enraged, sometimes it's depressed, sometimes it's manic. But as you really begin to look at yourself, you can see that your personality, it has many parts to it. It's like a mandala. Mm-hmm. Some of them originate in fear, like anger, superiority, and entitlement, inferiority, and needing to please. Vengefulness, jealousy, greed. And other parts of your personality originate in love. And they are the parts of your personality that we experience as gratitude, appreciation, patience, caring, contentment, awe of the universe. And our spiritual development now requires us to learn, to experience all of these different aspects of ourselves so that we can distinguish those that originate in fear and those that originate in love. In other words, distinguish within ourselves between love and fear and choose love all the time. That's the power, the only power that we can now move toward. The old power, manipulation and control, produces only violence and destruction. So that's the overall picture that I'm really happy to share. And since we're talking about gratitude, as you notice, is one of our experiences that originates in love. And the only way to create authentic power is to align your personality with your soul. Your soul is already aligned with the part of your personality that's grateful. That's why it feels so good. And also there's a very good reason for gratitude. It's something you can use as you utilize tools to create authentic power. And there's only two of them: emotional awareness and responsible choice. And you can consult intuition too. So I've talked for a while. Do you have any questions for me or anything I can add?
Well, I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank you again for sending the book over to me and your assistant Tammy for doing that. And I just want to tell you this experience I had when I opened the book and I sat down with it and I flipped the pages open, and the very first thing you basically have here is gratitude. And I just go, before the table of contents, this man wants to appreciate people in his life. So I just want to let you know I saw that and I felt it. I was like, So I know that's not about the book. Well, obviously gratitude's in the book, but I just wanted to tell you, it speaks a lot to me just seeing that, So
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. It didn't seem right to me to call that acknowledgments. It was that wasn't a big enough word. And the only word I could think of that might be big enough is gratitude.
Yeah, I do gratitude checklist is what I do on the back end of my book. But I managed to put it to the forward like you did. That's a better place for it. So I just want to tell you, I really, I highlighted some stuff here, but I really, you were speaking of fear, and I really liked what you were saying here. Like, fear is lack of trust in the universe, lack of appreciation for yourself, lack of care for others. Fear is impatient, anger, jealousy, resentment, and vengefulness. It's obsessive thoughts, compulsive activities, and addictive behaviors. Fear is being controlled by the world around you, always needing to change it in order to feel safe and vulnerable. Fear is distance from others. Fear is judgment and need. Fear is self-loathing. And then you speak of love. Choices of love and choices of fear are big decisions. So that really resonated with me. I love how you poetically put that. Fear is a sister or brother to these other feelings and these other, emotions. And love obviously brings us back over to here.
Yeah, well, if you really look at where we are from a multisensory perspective, which means an impersonal perspective of your soul, we are in a learning environment, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Call it the Earth School. And the Earth School is that span of experience between your birthday and your death day. And as you become multisensory, you begin to see that you're more than a personality. You're more than a body and a mind. You are also, that your personality, put it this way, has an immortal aspect, and that's your soul. A part of your personality existed before you were born and will exist after you die. And so once you begin to see through multisensory perception, which, as I said, there are many, many of us now do, hundreds of millions, then you can look at your personality, and many do, and they say, well, what am I going to use it for? What am I going to do with this personality that I have between the time it came into the Earth School In other words, my soul incarnated into the earth skull, and the time my soul goes home to non-physical reality. I suggest that you use that time to love. Well, I think everybody that's listening to our conversation would agree with that. But how do you do that when you're angry? How do you do that when you're jealous? How do you do that when you're depressed? How do you do that when you're manic? How do you do that when you want to kill somebody? That's the question. Everybody has loving, we use it shorthand, loving parts of their personality and frightened parts of their personality. And you can't choose when one's going to come up and when the other is. In other words, you can't choose what you're going to feel next. But you can choose what you're going to do when you feel it. And that's where the spiritual rubber meets the road. When you develop the ability to experience the frightened parts of your personality in terms of your physical sensations in certain areas of your body, and while you're experiencing them, choose to act from the healthiest, most loving part of your personality that you can, to move beyond the control of that frightened part, that's when you create authentic power. That's the moment. And as you do that again and again and again, you eventually begin to move beyond the control of that frightened part of your personality. And that's creating authentic power.
That's beautiful. I was talking yesterday, and I feel like a big key and element is that when you're talking to people, is they can come to the realization they have a choice, right? Like there's a choice there. When, like you were saying, when that stuff, obviously thoughts occur, ideas occur, and even reading this morning about temptation in your book, there's nothing wrong with temptation. It's when you make the decision to act or not act. I like how you said that is the moment when karma is created, to quote you here. But that's, people, just like I say, I'm happy. Gratitude is a choice, right? I get to choose to be grateful. It's not, I don't have to do it. I choose to do it. And when things come up, I have a decision to make. I can either, I get to choose what it all means. I get to choose how long I want to stay in a thought, right? I get to choose if I want to take action on that thought, or I can choose to think about something else. But again, it's all down to if we could train ourselves or work ourselves into the understanding that there's a choice to be made there, opposed to just a reaction, like you're saying, being active opposed to reactive, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's when you develop emotional awareness, here's how you do it. Here's how you experience it. When you're angry, when you're jealous, when you're feeling anything, and we're always feeling something, turn your attention inside you to start with your throat area, your chest area, your solar plexus area, and see what physical sensations you're experiencing there. And I don't mean happy, sad, buoyant, down. I mean, what do you feel in the way of physical sensations that, if you're in a frightened part of your personality, will be churning or burning or stabbing or aching or throbbing, those kind of physical sensations. And notice what thoughts you have. They'll be comparative, judgmental, like he's so stupid, or I'm so stupid. And while that's happening, reach for the healthiest part of your personality that you can. Now, here's where gratitude can come in. Just what we were saying when we talked a little before the show. You can think about a time when you were filled with gratitude. And even if you can't remember it at the time that you're angry, or you don't want to get out of bed, or you can't, you feel like you can't resist the temptation for food or drugs or sex or shopping or gambling, at least you can remember that there was a time when you were grateful, and hold on to that thought. And then do your best to act in that moment from that healthy, loving, grounded, sane part of your personality. That's how you create authentic power. That's how you align your personality with your soul. And I feel that one of the best ways to challenge a frightened part of your personality is to be grateful, to look at what you're grateful for. So, for example, maybe you wake up at night and you're worried about paying the rent, or you're worried that you can't trust somebody you thought you could trust, or somebody you thought you were going to spend your life with says, I don't love you anymore, or your child is ill, or one of your parents are ill, and you feel inside yourself and you feel pain, physical, painful sensations, say in your solar plexus area or your chest area. Now, while you're feeling them, that's your sign. That's how you know that fear is active in you. And if you act on it, you will create painful and destructive consequences. So, emotional awareness is hugely important. You might say your emotions are messages from your soul. What information do they bring? They tell you, fear is active in you right now. That pain you feel, that's fear. And we can go into where that comes from. Those thoughts that you're thinking about yourself, the self-loathing, the self-hatred, that's fear. You can challenge it. You can recognize that it's only one part of your personality and you have many parts. Now, by doing that, you do exactly what you talked about. You create a little gap between the impulse, for example, to shout or withdraw, and the action. And in that gap, you can do something that means everything. You can choose. You can choose consciously. That's the power of emotional awareness. It allows you to know when love is present in you and when fear is present. When love is present, you look in the same areas and you'll see pleasing physical sensations, good feeling physical sensations, the kind you want more of. And you know that if you act on those, you're cultivating a loving part of your personality. And creating authentic power is becoming aware in yourself, as I mentioned, between when fear is active and when love is active, and choosing to challenge fear by not acting on it, even when it's so powerfully attractive that you can barely stand it. You want to shout at someone because you know he's wrong, because you know he's mean, because you know everything about this person is repugnant. And you know that you're right because every frightened part of your personality is righteous. That's the time to stop. Look inside instead of outside at what you think is causing this pain in you and challenge it in you, not in the world. That's what it takes to create authentic power. That's part of what it takes.
I completely agree, and there were so many things you were saying there. I was resonating with me, and just to step back to the beginning of your starting, what I've been finding recently, it's gratitude is just all in remembering. It's all in remembering. It's all in your memory. You know what I mean? Like it's what happens when we get angry or we get depressed or even trauma, right? Because when my mom passed away, I was so upset that all I could think about was this traumatic event, right? I had 35 years of good memories, Gary, right? 35 years, but yet I was fixated on mere moments, right? Because I was caught in a trauma loop, and it upset me. It upset me that I kept thinking that I was thinking of that when I had so much good things to think of, right? There's so many memories, good memories. I didn't need to sit. You know what I mean? I didn't need to sit in that space. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy for me. And it was in the fact of remembering, the idea of just remember, like you said, if you go to a place where you're grateful or you remember being grateful. And I feel like it's all in your memory. It's like all in remembering these moments with people or places and spaces, right? It could just be, it could be simplistically sitting on the couch with my wife last night, or it could be having coffee this morning, reading your book, right? These are all grateful memories. They're grateful times. But when we get overthrown, we get into fear or ego or mistrust. We basically forget about all that, right? And we're in that fear state. And like you said, that's the moment where if we could trigger the memory, put ourselves in a better, clear space, we can then come from a place of love, like you said, opposed to anger.
That's exactly right, Chris. It's exactly right. But when you find yourself thinking these things, when you rather remain with the gratitude you feel for your mom, that's a time to be gentle with yourself. That's a time to be aware that you are experiencing a frightened part of your personality, and it's not grateful. It's not grateful for anything. And as you become aware that that's only a part of your personality, then you can reach for other parts. And in your case, you like to reach for parts that are grateful. And that is a wonderful use, a very powerful use of gratitude in the creation of authentic power. Because I use it a lot, gratitude, to challenge a frightened part of my personality. And it's not what I try to do. Here, let me put it this way. There's countless ways to challenge a frightened part of your personality. There is no this way or that way. Whatever works for you. Memories of when you were in a grateful part of your personality. Looking at who in the world you're grateful for now. Because all of your power is now. It's never anyplace else. If you're in memories, even if they're memories of gratitude, you're out of your power. If you are thinking about things you're going to be grateful for in the future, same thing. The question and the focus is, what are you grateful for now? And what are you doing about it? Are you letting it infuse your words and your deeds? That's an experience of authentic power, living in gratitude. When you align your personality with your soul, we're talking about aligning your personality with the intentions of your soul. And they are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And as you're experiencing each of these things, there's gratitude when you're aware of it. Gratitude for harmony. And harmony doesn't mean creating a lack of conflict or a circumstance of minimal conflict. It means a fullness in yourself that is at peace and connected and harmonious. I know that's redundant because we're talking about harmony, but harmony like you hear in music when the chords are resonant and they're just beautiful to hear together. When you feel that in you with other people, that's harmony. Doesn't matter what they're doing, by the way. They can feel that with you too. But what happens if they don't? Most people don't. You can still feel it in you.
Right.
Harmony, cooperation, sharing, reverence for life. Those are all experiences that when you're in them, if you're in them, you're feeling gratitude. For example, you don't have to think, I'm grateful for this. Oh man, I'm really grateful for this. Think of the last time you saw a great mountain at sunset. I don't know, have you ever been around mountains?
I've been around a little bit. I live in Kentucky, so occasionally.
Well, I'm sure they've got some. Yeah, well, I mean, there's lots of examples. Great mountains are one. I lived in Mount Shasta, and I used to love it every night. Something called alpenglow happens. It's magic. The mountain starts to turn pink, and then it turns luminescent pink, then it turns lavender, then it turns purple as it fades into darkness. And when you watch that, I'm not sure where I end and the mountain begins. Take the ocean. If you ever see the ocean and it's roaring, or you realize it's stretching in front of you for 2,000 miles, and you're in awe of it. If you've ever seen a prairie or a desert, when you see something that you're in awe of in that moment, it's not what you're looking at that you're in awe of, although it is, but the feeling is in you. What's the difference between you and what you're seeing? Those are moments when gratitude is present, whether you're thinking of it or not. And in fact, as you begin to use your multisensory perception to align your personality with your soul, you become more and more grateful for more and more things in your life. For example, you're thinking about your mom and suddenly you're thinking thoughts that are not grateful for her. The frightened parts of your personality are not obstacles to your spiritual growth. They are avenues. They are ways that the universe is showing you in exquisite appropriateness to your life what it is in yourself you need to change and move beyond the control of in order to give the gifts that you were born to give. In other words, when you have a painful emotional experience, that never has anything to do with what the frightened part thinks it has to do. Like somebody who's betrayed you, somebody who's cheated you, somebody who's taken your place in line, or an illness. The events in the world activate internal dynamics in you, dynamics inside you, and those dynamics create the emotional experiences that you encounter. So if you're trying to change those emotional experiences by changing what's happening in the world, you're squandering your time.
Right.
Instead, you can turn your attention inward and change what is originating those painful emotional experiences. That's creating authentic power. That's creating real power. And that is now our evolutionary modality. That's our pathway. And it's also the goal of our species as we evolve. So when you have those thoughts that take you away from gratitude, you can say, thank you. Somebody's angry or rude to you in the store or on the freeway, and it brings up anger or resentment or judgment or frustration. When you see it for what it is, life itself, the universe, giving you an intimate and painful experience of a part of your personality that you alone can change and move beyond the control of. And not only that, if you don't take that opportunity, another one will come, and another, and another, and another. And when you look at that, there's awe in that when you begin to see the miracle of your life and how everything in your life serves your spiritual development. Then a big thank you comes up all the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I say it to myself. I'm so glad I'm not going through my life anymore exploiting women. I'm so glad I'm not going through my life anymore exploiting everyone that I could exploit. I'm so glad I'm not going through my life anymore thinking only about me. And when I do think only about me, I recognize it as a frightened part of my personality, and I challenge it. I use my free will to challenge it, to move beyond the control of that, so that I can do what I found really gives me the best feeling imaginable. And that's love. That's gratitude. All the forms of love.
You know, what you were saying really resonates, and it reminds me, we go around labeling everything, every experience, right? We're putting labels on people, on experiences, on everything, at least that's the normal go-to, right? Our mind wants to put things into boxes or put places and things. And, because we're going to do that anyways, I think about my friend Rajesh Sethi shared with me this image. It's like, you could just choose that everything in your life is either a gift or a lesson. And I think that really leads into what you were saying, because obviously you know what a gift is. It's easy to receive a gift. You smile, you know it's a gift, but a lesson is something that's challenging you, like you said, like that whatever's challenging you inside, it's bringing that fear up or whatever, that's a less, like you just said, it's the universe taking you to school, trying to, here's a lesson here. You could learn it now, or you know what, we're going to go ahead and try. We're going to continue, right? We're going to continue to try to teach you this lesson because eventually you're going to learn that, you're going to learn something about yourself that's going to allow you to open this up where it won't be a lesson anymore. You'll just turn to love quicker. It won't press your buttons anymore because you've internalized your feeling inside of you. You'll be more succinct to just the calm and rational side of your loving side of yourself. And I feel like I feel really that really speaks to what you were saying about, if we can look, how do we look at when people are challenging us in our feelings, right? Like, do we project outward and go, oh, the world needs to change? Or like in your book, no, we need to change. I think, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm perfect. And I think when I grew up, I feel like in the society, I think all outside want to go, oh, of course the world needs to change, not us, because that's easy. That's easy to go, the world needs to change. I don't need to change. But the reality of it is that's crazy thinking, because the world's the world and we are ourselves. We have the power to change ourselves. So anyways, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but I remember reading that in your book too, and it resonates.
That's not a tangent, Chris. You're going straight to the heart of it. And we're saying the same things. We're just using a little different vocabulary. Mm-hmm. You made a distinction between a gift and a lesson based on how you feel. Mm-hmm. But the energy of them both is the same. They are both. Well, if we don't want to use the word gift, we'll say offerings from the universe. And these offerings are always to support you in your spiritual growth. That's what your Life in the Earth School is about. So every experience that you encounter serves your spiritual development. Put it this way, every experience that you encounter serves to bring the consciousness of your soul into the awareness of your personality. Some of those are experiences that the personality would not choose.
Right.
Cancer, physical pain, disappointment. But all of those are designed to move your awareness into the personal perspective of your soul. And we can do that now because we're multisensory. We are in new territory. We're no longer a 5-sensory species confined to the limitations of the 5 senses. We know we're more than minds and muscles and bodies and personalities. We know that the world, if we really look at it, is meaningful in some way. Sometimes we even sense that it's appropriate, even when that goes against all thought, all evidence of the eyes, and you feel it. That's a multisensory perception. So we're talking about the same thing, about recognizing multisensory perception in yourself, realizing that it's a new epic event that you can experience multisensory perception. A few people have always experienced it in the past. Most of our religions are named after some, but now hundreds of millions of us are. And you're one of them. So what are you going to do? I would say, create authentic power. Align your personality with your soul. Distinguish between love and fear in yourself and choose love, no matter what's going on inside of you, like anger, rage, depression, or what's going on outside of you, like another 9/11 event.
Right. Speaking, we were talking about, seeing the vastness of the ocean or seeing the sunset over the mountains. I feel like, like you say, gratitude's in the now. And it goes back to, if you're not present for those moments, you're not going to remember it's like those grateful moments. The only reason we remember them is because we were present, and I was even talking to a friend the other day, and he shared this wonderful story, and I'm happy I could share it with you. He said when he was a child, and he's from India, and his mom, he remembers his mom making porridge. and he remembered his mom was sitting over there, and he could hear her saying, and I don't speak the language, so she was basically saying thank you to their deity, and he stopped her and he was like, what are you doing? And she said, I'm just being thankful that I can do this right now, that I didn't make this happen, that I'm just a part of it. And I'm just grateful for being here, like, and it was just, and he shared that with me, and he's like, it completely, I was young, and it completely, that memory, again, he was present to get that message, right? To have that experience. And therefore that's a grateful moment that totally changed his life. And that's where if we show up present, if we're not busy, right? We're not rushing to the next thing, or we're worrying about the future, or we're regretting the past, the action, all that happening, we're talking about the fear, the love, the loss, all the being present, all those experiences you're talking about, that's being in school, happen, and we're present for it. And therefore we can take action, and we have memories.
That's right. And the more you're calling it present, you can start with emotional awareness. What are you feeling in this moment? The world is always activating internal dynamics in you, and emotional currents are flowing in you. And if you're aware of them, then that gives you the ability to choose what you're going to do with that impulse that you've just felt, whether it's anger or rage or caretaking or self-loathing, and choose to do something constructive, something loving, something helpful. That's how you create authentic power. It's that simple. The rest of it is practice, actually doing it. And if you do it, it becomes a meditation, a heartfulness meditation, because it moves you always in the direction of your heart. You mentioned your mind several times, but your mind, if you look at it, you'll see that it's designed to work with the five senses, and it does. It assesses, it compares, it analyzes, it evaluates what supports the pursuit of external power, manipulation, and control, and what does not. And it recommends what does. So the intellect and the five senses go together, hand in hand, just like that. However, the intellect is not designed to communicate, much less experience, multisensory perception. That requires the higher order logic and understanding of the heart, and that is emerging. The heart understands things that the intellect does not. In fact, as you create authentic power, you go where the intellect, you see what the intellect has never seen and never will see. And that's the territory of love. And that's what we've entered now. But at the same time, we have inherited a world that was created by five sensory humans, evolving by pursuing external power. The world that we've inherited is built on external power. It expresses external power. It functions on external power. It is itself a startlingly accurate symbol of external power. Now, how can you change that? By trying to manipulate it and control it? You can't. You would only be adding more to the world of what it's already made of. So that's why when we say the only way to change the world is to change yourself, it's not a New Age saying. It's not a catchy kind of spiritual thing. It's the reality. The world that we are now moving beyond is built on external power, and to change it requires something different, and that's authentic power, the alignment of the personality with the soul. Only you can make that contribution. Only you can create authentic power in yourself. As much as your wife may help you and you love one another, you cannot create authentic power for her, and she cannot create it for you. But you can support one another. That's a spiritual partnership, a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth.
That makes me think of, when you, for example, you can't make somebody watch that sunset, right? You can't force anybody into that moment. But for example, you could go on a hike with somebody, create the space where their mind's in a peaceful place to enjoy that moment. You can, that's where our love and our love for others comes in. I feel like I've been talking a lot lately, like, how do you create spaces for gratitude? And obviously love has many forms with people, and kindness. So if it's just listening to somebody, letting them know they exist, letting them know that they matter. Or again, like we said, it could just be going on a walk with somebody and just peacefully being peaceful with somebody, creating that space. But again, we're just going out, being who we are, hoping to put love into the world, and just allowing that love to do whatever it's going to do, right? If it opens someone's heart, if it doesn't, it's not our place to do it. We just have to be authentic.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's not putting love into the world, it's being love. That's how you put it into the world. There's no other way.
Right.
And as you're doing that, as you're consciously creating ways to help people experience gratitude, be aware of your intention, your real intention. The value of emotional awareness and responsible choice. Well, responsible choice of what? It's responsible choice of intention. And there's only two intentions in the Earth School, love and fear. Of course, there's millions of intentions. I want to develop muscles. I want to get well. I want to ride a bicycle. I want to go to Europe. I want to be a welder. I want to make $1 million before I'm 26. They're endless. But when you get to the bedrock, can't get any deeper intention. If you keep asking, why do you want to make $1 million? Why do you want to do that with it? Why do you want to do that? Eventually you come to, it's either you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it for someone else. Then it's love or fear. So the reason I'm saying this is because you can have the intention to support someone else in experiencing gratitude, but if you are attached to the outcome, that's not love. That's fear. That's the pursuit of external power. That's caretaking. If you're caretaking, that means you're doing something for someone else, but you want something in return. It's sticky. There's strings. What you want is thank you, or a smile, or at least acknowledgement. You can tell this easily if you give somebody a gift, for example. Well, say you take them to look at a mountain just at sunset, like we were talking about, or someplace in Kentucky where it's really beautiful and sun setting, and my goodness, it's just awesome. And they look at you and say, what did you bring me here for, Chris? Look, maybe you can waste time like this, but I don't, and I don't want to. And if you feel any little pain about that, then that means you had a second agenda. That was caretaking instead of caregiving. It's a frightened part of your personality that caretakes. It's loving parts of your personality that give care, that are caregiving. So as you become aware in your life, you become aware not only of your emotions in terms of physical sensations in your body and your thoughts, you become aware of the intentions with which you are acting in the world. Now, an intention is a quality of consciousness that infuses your deeds and your words. And that quality of consciousness is either love or fear. And when that quality of consciousness is love, everybody feels it. Even those people who are angry. Maybe they're just taken aback a minute. They're not sure what's happening, but that has influence. When it's fear, that has no influence. All it can do is stimulate fear in someone else, unless they're creating authentic power. Unless they're creating authentic power. Then they will recognize you as a personality that has loving and frightened parts, and in this moment has a frightened part of its personality active. And because they know their own frightened parts, they know that you are a personality that's acting rudely or offensively is in fear, and that means it's in pain. They're talking with someone who's in pain. And as you see that, it'll bring out compassion. But if you have an attachment and they're rude when you expected them to be thankful, you will have the reaction. And that reaction will be to judge, and you'll create distance and push people away and shut yourself down and judge. And then that judgment will turn into anger. All of these things are what we become aware of when we become aware of the complexity and the beauty and the power and depth of our own lives. Everyone's life. Everyone. There is no one who's living homeless now, or without shoes, or without education, that isn't living a life that's complex and labyrinthine as your own, that doesn't feel deeply. I know for the first 35 years or so of my life, mostly what I felt was pain, which means I was in fear. I felt superior, entitled, angry, jealous. Couldn't ever quite grasp why relationships never lasted for me. I thought, looking back on it, it's clear. And who would want to stay in a relationship with a narcissistic, sexually addicted, self-centered, focused, unaware person? But I didn't look at myself that way, and so I felt pain when someone would leave me. All of these things are different perceptions that allow me and you to see yourself more fully. And as you see yourself more fully, you see what you've done in the past, and you'll see you were doing what you could. And it created consequences that were painful, but you don't have to repeat them. You can learn.
I'm so with you, and you definitely. If we had more time, I could get into it, but that the school taught me a huge lesson about being attached to an outcome. So I definitely school of hard knocks with that for sure. I took that to the limit. Almost the analogy is like, well, when you step into the fire, you're going to get burned. Either you're going to be okay, you get burned, or everything's going to, you're going to have to be fresh again. You know what I mean? Where you pursued something so far that you basically have to be a new person now because everything's been transformed. So I've learned that lesson the hard way, and I completely agree with you. Should not be tied to an outcome when you're putting in goodwill and love into the universe. Wholeheartedly believe that.
Well, the way I'm looking at it, should doesn't enter the picture, but I think I know what you mean, Chris. If you do put love into the picture, you put love into the picture, and you're part of the picture. If you put fear into the picture, that's what you do, and you're part of the picture. So what are you going to put into the picture? The picture is your life. The picture is the world that you're living in, and you are not separate from it.
Right. And it's all part of the school and learning to, like you said, finding out about yourself, learning things about yourself. Some lessons are easier to learn than others, right? Some are big lessons that can totally change your life for the better.
Oh, that's so true. Well, I really appreciate everything you've told me, Chris, is a reflection of what I love to share with people, just expressed in a language that feels more comfortable for you. I like to make suggestions now and then, though. For example, but they're just suggestions. Instead of looking at it, when you're 5th century, you can look at the school of hard knocks as the school of hard knocks. When you're multi-sensory, you look at the same school, and you can see it's a school of unlimited blessings. They don't stop. And the knocks are the things that you're giving to yourself.
When you said earlier, you said, I said gifts and lessons, you said gifts and offerings. I thought that was a really great, because an offering obviously an offering is a gift in disguise.
Yeah.
It becomes a gift. So I like the word you're using, offering. It's an offering.
Yeah.
So exactly, yeah. You get that offering, and then you can see that it's a gift. It's a gift that's being given to you. Question is, what are you going to do with it, right?
Chris, may I, if people would like to continue to explore,
of course, yeah.
we just created a new website. It's called seatofthesoul.com. SEAT, like what you sit on, of the SOUL. And we waited a long time. We finally decided we wanted to create a website to support people rather than just inform them. And so I hope that this will support you. And I know if you're listening to Chris, it can support you, because I support you, Chris, and what you're saying is so supportive to me and is so supportive to everyone you're saying it to. And I really appreciate you doing it.
Thank you, Gary. And I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so people, when they see this, they can hyperlink to it to check it out for sure. And if we had more time, I'd love to hear more about, how that, if we had more time, how the development of that. And obviously there's a lot, I know there's a lot more to tell about it. If we had more, do you want to say anything more about it? Or I know we only have a few more minutes, but and it's obviously very important to you. So.
Oh, it's what my life is. It's the joy of my life. And the book, Universal Human, that's just come out, has a lot in it that can be helpful to you also, I think. So if that draws you, take a look or take a listen.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll make sure I put the link to the book in there. And I just want to thank you again for coming on. And I have to tell everybody I've been reading your book. I love the way I like books where, you can sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and just get something. You don't have to, I like the set of this, because I just make it in the morning. I go, I'm gonna check in with Gary, what Gary's got going on here, his thoughts, getting a little piece every morning, which I really enjoy books like that. They allow me just kind of piecemeal. I don't have to sit down and try to it's not a big meal. It's something that's digestible. That the hope obviously is you read something and something sticks out, right? If it's a quote or a phrase or whatever, right? You get a little bit to go on. So thank you so much for coming on today. It's so great to meet you. I really love the conversation, and I'm happy to be sharing your book and your new website. And thank you so much for the time today, Gary.
Oh, you're very welcome, Chris. It's a joy to meet you. I'm glad that our paths have crossed.
Likewise. Well, I'm Chris with Gary. Just remind everybody to stay grateful, and we really appreciate y'all's time tonight. Thank you, and we are out.